All right, guys, we're back. Something I want to talk about. I've been working really hard on trying to learn myself this year more and more, just because it's obviously like the most popular bait on the planet right now, or technique, should I say, um, is the minnow. Jig head minnow, Demiki rig. There's 1,000 names for it, whatever you want to call it, right? So my goal this year was to come in, figure out how to use it, how I like to use it, my setup that I like, because everybody does things differently, whether it's a drop shot, crankbait, any technique. Everybody has their preferences. There's no right or wrong way to do things, um, but there is ways that I like better and that somebody else likes better, etc. So I'm not going to tell you that this is the only way to do it, but from my perspective, this is the way I like to do it. So, a couple of things. Um, there's the huge notion that you need to tie a loop knot on a jig head minnow to get it to roll. Well, definitely helps. The big key with that is that knot's very good, but it's not as strong. You get around zebra mussels, anything sharp, I do not tie that at all. If I'm totally open water fishing, I can get away with it. But personally, I tie a Palomar most of the time instead of the loop knot, and it does just fine. Um, the other misconception, in my opinion, is a lot of guys use really light weights. Like, you always see the Japanese anglers throwing like, whatever, 1/32. It's crazy finesse. I don't do that much either. Um, you can do it if you have the patience for it. I'm not saying it won't work, but for me, I generally go 3/16, quarter, 3/8, and a half. That's it. There's four. Half if you're fishing really deep, or they want something super aggressive, and they want it fast. 3/8 is pretty much my go-to most of the time. 3/8 and quarter. 3/8, if you still want it fast, still fishing it deep, but it's not crazy fast. Also, you go up to the heavier weights, the halves, they throw it a lot more. So I generally try to stay 3/8 if I'm fishing really deep. Quarter, you can fish very deep. It still has a pretty decent fall rate, but it's slower, and a quarter is a pretty good starting point, I feel like, for most baits, especially the bigger, 6-7 inch, Sakamatos or whatever you want to throw. And then 3/16, which normally if I throw 3/16, I throw the range roller, owner range roller, and it's really, really good. It's also one of those things that it's going to take a minute for it to get to the bottom, depending on how deep you're throwing it. So that's the big thing I've learned on the weights. So it's you kind of got to see, first of all, how fast do they want it? Second of all, how deep are you fishing? Third of all, take into consideration how heavy it is, and that the heavier the bait, the more likely they are to throw it. So take that into consideration when you're tournament fishing. Finally, the other thing is rod setup. So a lot of guys really like 7.6, really long, and then there's some guys that like a 6.10. I fall in between. A 7.6 for me on a spinning rod is a really long spinning rod. I personally don't love it. It's fine. Tried it. Works okay. Not my favorite. 6.10 is way too short. So you want to find something in between. 7.2, 7.4. Somewhere in there is probably pretty good. I use a Phoenix M1. This is a light, which is more like a medium light. And it is a 7'2" light. So it's right in between. Has a pretty soft tip, loads up good. You get all the benefits there. You want the softer tip, obviously, to help work the bait. You also want the softer tip to help them get it. Instead of it, if it was too stiff, you'd pull it out of their mouth, things like that. It's kind of like a crankbait, chatterbait type tip. Like, you want it to be parabolic and allow them to get the bait and swallow it, right? Okay. Finally, this is one I've kind of figured out more recently, especially with smallmouth that are chasing bait fish. You got to have a high-speed reel. Like, high-speed reel is a must, because a lot of times the smallmouth will come up, hit it really hard, and they keep running at you. And if you have a slow reel, you can't keep up with them. So I actually changed reels. I was using a Shimano Miravel, maybe. This is a 5.0 or 5.4. It's 5 something to 1, right? So slow, okay? That's fine and all for maybe a drop shot or something you're fishing slow like a Ned rig. Still don't love it because of that. I would kind of learned that I don't love the slower speed reels. So I went to a 3000 Daiwa, and this is a ballistic 3000, and this is a 6.4 to 1. They make them faster than this, but I don't feel like it's necessary. I think this is probably a pretty good happy medium. And this reel seems to be pretty nice. It also has a little bit bigger spool. So the diameter of the spool is a little bit bigger, which helps pick the line up faster, then in turn helps you have a faster speed reel once again. I definitely think that's a huge key, is having a fast reel, faster spinning reel when you're doing this Damiki or Minnow rod, however you want to call it, okay? Finally is when you're talking jig heads, I'm going to get a couple out here while I talk to you guys. There's a couple things that are super important to me. For one, if you can, tungsten. Obviously tungsten's more expensive, but tungsten shows up better on forward facing sonar because it's harder, sends a stronger return. I firmly believe that. I've used both, and I feel like you definitely can tell a difference. The other is, so these heads specifically, they're similar to a Queen, but they're not. It's actually a Boat Things head. So it has a twist lock on it, which is good in some ways because obviously it keeps you from tearing up baits. But what I don't like about the twist lock is it's really, really, really hard to get your bait threaded on straight, which for this technique is super important. So what I do is I pull this twist lock off. So I just take a pair of pliers, unwrap it, pull it off, and then I have no keeper. You're probably thinking, well, how in the world do you, keep your bait on and not lose them all the time? Well, I use super glue. So I take my bait, thread it on, make sure it's perfectly straight. You want these baits very straight, very streamlined, flat. You don't want the hook like bending them up a little bit or bending them to the side. You want it as straight as you can possibly get it. And then I just put a little dab of super glue up by the head. When I slide it on, I push it up against it, let it sit for 10 minutes or so. Generally, if I'm on the lake, I'll grab my other rod, use it for a minute, and I'll hang it off the side of the boat or have some pre-rigged. But you just glue it on, you're good to go. You just let it glue, and then it'll, eventually you're going to tear it up. It just is what it is. Pull it off, take the excess bait off of there, whatever the glue held on, redo it again. Another bait, glue, set it for 10 minutes, go to fishing. So that's the way to do it. That's a little Boat Things head. This is a 3/8 with a 2/0. It's a pretty good hook. It's a little flimsy, but it's not too bad with throwing a medium or a light action spinning rod. And then, so that's a really good one. And you can actually take these as well. Some people don't know. You can take these and heat them up and get that hook out of there, and you can actually switch the hooks. So if you would like a different hook, you can get a different hook that fits in it, and it'll work fine. So you can do that as well. So those are a couple things that I've learned this year, really, minnow fishing, I guess. More in-depth things that I've learned is that, obviously you want to keep the fish and the bait as far away from the boat as possible. That just seems like they're way more receptive to biting. I definitely have played with every single color palette that Garmin makes, and I know a lot of the pros use the amber or the black emerald, the green. And for me personally, I do not like it. I've tried it again and again and again, but I use the blue pictures, the blue color palette. For me personally, I don't know if it's because I'm a northern smallmouth guy, know a lot of the smallmouth guys like the blue pallet. I don't know if it's just because if I'm a northern guy, but it seems like the blue pallet for me is the best. And I use Garmin Live Scope. I've looked at and tried some of the other ones. I just use Garmin. Garmin's for me is the best one out there. So, but yeah, so that's kind of what I've learned a lot about minnow fishing. It's been a very good technique for me this year. I've caught some really big fish doing it. Caught a 6-pound, couple 6-pound smallmouth, and a 6-pound largemouth doing it. It's just been very productive. It's good for some situations, and it has its place and has its time. So definitely a good bait. Definitely something you don't want to overlook. Definitely keep it in your arsenal. Clearly, with all the tournaments that are being won on it and cashing checks on it. So with that said, hope this video helps you guys out. Before I go, I guess I probably should tell you what line I use. Line, Seaguar Smackdown Stealth Gray. And I use Stealth Gray because it's doesn't show up as good in the water. So what's good, the good thing about that is this technique is not in my opinion, you don't need to see the line real well. So I use gray. It's more 90% feel. And the gray keeps the fish from seeing it if it's really clear. So if you have a shorter leader line, whatever, which a lot of guys like a short leader, short fluorocarbon leader, because with the shorter leader you get a little bit better action out of your bait when you're jigging it. But if you're fishing really clear water, like we do a lot in the north, you can't really do that with the bright chartreuse or pink lines or bright blues or whatever and still get the fish to bite, especially if it's pressured. So I use the Stealth Gray, and I use a 10-pound or 12-pound test Seaguar fluorocarbon leader. If I use 10, I use the gold label. If I use 12, I use the Invisex. So that's what I use. That's my line, reel setup, hook setup, weight setup, and baits. You guys already know, I'm not even going to mention any baits. There are literally hundreds of them out there. There's, to me personally, 6 of them that are really good. And there's even days where one will work better than the other on the same body of water, the same fish. I've seen it change from morning to afternoon on different baits. It's just they're picky. And with the more pressure, they're going to continue to be more picky. So with that said, hope you guys learned something. And we'll talk to you soon. Hopefully more tips and hopefully more videos coming to you. I'm not very good at being consistent at this, but we're going to try. So thanks.